like trying to count the number of angels that can fit on the head of a pin. We're negotiating and we're talking about things that really don't have anything to do with the intent of this bill. It's to clarify and simplify the time period. I've been on a charter commission. Many of you have been on a charter commission before. And the requirements of the number of votes to form one, whether to put it on the warrant article, whether you're going to really form a new commission, or whether you're just going to revise an existing charter, and so forth, all require different numbers of votes. This bill does nothing more than make those uniform. The amendments grew out of the requirement to address every single possibility that happened in all of this. My understanding on the Senate bill is they're trying to grandfather the cities and the people who are already there so that they're protected and they don't have to go jump through hoops if they're not going to make any changes. So this thing had a bipartisan start. The 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats from my town got together. We all co-sponsored it because it was something that our town needed. It's something that I think in the name of expediency and simplification so that the average person can understand it, your town may need as well. So let's not get into these eloquent dissertations on the fine points of all of these things. This is a simple bill that's trying to help people in towns understand how to modify and change or adopt a charter and how to do it easily in their town. There is no requirement in the law that the Attorney General approve anything, but there is a requirement that he be notified. That's fine. I don't have any problem notifying. There are other people that do need to approve, but this is not part of the election process. The votes are the same. It's just the numbers and the time intervals are the main thing that this deals with. So I ask you, please, don't waste 2 years of work in this House, in a committee that's done an awful lot of work and has been very interested and very involved in it. Don't waste forever trying to waste all that good work that's gone into this by delegates. I urge you to concur with the Senate motion and that we move this thing along so that the towns can simplify their actions in their own governance. Thank you.
Will the member yield to a question?
Yes.
The member yields to Representative Concord, Inquirer.
Thank you. I was going to ask a different question until you made that final statement. But you talk about this being a simple bill, and it's obviously a Hampton bill because all the sponsors are from Hampton, so it's meant to help Hampton simplify the process. But don't you agree that the process of legislation should never involve making something simpler for one group and then having extraneous amendments added onto it, which makes it murky and difficult for every other group in the state and makes it more problematic? Is it not our job to make sure that we go to a committee conference, that's the purpose of a committee conference, to iron out these problems, such as I've decided here this morning? Can't we do both, accomplish what you want to do, yet nullify these other problems that were so eloquently, if I may refer to my friend from Hudson, expressed?
I don't think that we should be criticized being the first one to think of this great idea of simplifying the process. The fact that it happens to be something that we originated in our town does not mean that it does not or could not or will not apply to a lot of other towns in the state. There are a number of towns that are in SB2 right now that wish they weren't, that would like to go to something better or go back to something that they had before. So all of these things can apply. It's all of the detailed, as many of our statutes and our RSAs apply, there are all kinds of things that grew over the years. And when you propose a new piece of legislation to simplify one thing, you are very often challenged by all of those nitpicky little things in there, and you have to make every single one of them. If you don't, it's going to come back and bite you later on. Again, this is still a simple bill. We originated it in our town, but it does not mean that it does not apply to everyone. And I think you'll be providing some insurance and simplicity for your own process should it ever arise in your town if you vote for the concurrence.
Will the member yield to a follow-up? The member yields.
Is actually a separate question, as I mentioned. I had this question come to mind as you mentioned the Attorney General, because I'm not sure if you've read page 5, lines 32 and 33 of the bill, because I think you told us that the Attorney General could not deny it, but does it not read, if the Attorney General or the Commissioner of the Department of Revenue Administration does not approve, the proposed charter shall not be placed on the ballot. In other words, they are given the power to deny it, correct? Or am I not reading that part?
I have not seen that wording placed into the bill. It's not in the original bill, so I can't address that one way or the other. It was my understanding originally that the Attorney General had to be notified within a certain number of days. That the notification was the only requirement. It is different than that, but I'm not aware of it.
Will the member yield to another question? The member yields. Representative Martell, you may inquire.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would you believe that when you're trying to develop something that is new, that you want to create no havoc and not have any turmoil? In this case, the Attorney General, the Secretary of State's office has all of the expertise and has done so, and it is in the Constitution that he takes time in addressing these issues. Would you now think that this would turn the state and all the cities and towns in much turmoil if we take the Secretary of State out of this picture?
I don't know what turmoil, I don't know how you define turmoil, or how you might expect to create turmoil. The Secretary of State doesn't, when I was in the Charter Commission before, the Secretary of State was notified of the findings of our commission and our recommendation, but there was no, to the best of my recollection, there was no concurrence or denial or approval or anything else from the Secretary of State.
Will the member yield to a follow-up? The member yields.
Thank you again, Madam Speaker. My point of using the word turmoil is just simply that when you take someone out of the picture who has the most expertise, you also have an issue of not being able to address the proper positions and also the proper way of doing it. And that's all I was using the word turmoil for.
Again, what our Charter Commission did is we sent a report to the Secretary of State's office, and I don't know whether it was, I don't know what happened to it. It could have gone down a black hole, it could have been on the wall. We certainly didn't get any word back. It was just a notification, not a request for approval.
Will the member yield to another question? The member yields. Representative Baruby, you may inquire.
Something as important as city charters to cities and towns. And I've heard here that it is part of the Constitution that every city and town must have a city charter or town charter. Now, something as important as it, would you think that this should go for constitutional amendment or something like that? Just trying to get these major changes on. Would you believe it?
The member asked if you would please restate the question.
Something as important as this, where there would be a major change. It would be to the Constitution, basically, because all of the cities and towns are required to have a city charter. So would we be better off, something as important as this, to put it to the voters on a constitutional amendment? Would you believe it?
We already have a provision for establishing, for changing a form of government. I'll go back to what I said originally. The only purpose of this bill is to clarify the number of votes needed for putting it on the warrant article, for adopting it, for implementing it, et cetera, and for different votes and different time periods that are needed charter or revise or anything else. We're not doing anything to the old charters. If all towns have charters, fine, we're not looking at those. This is doing what you want to do. It's already in statute. The only thing we're trying to do is clarify and make more sensible the time frames of the number of votes so that it's consistent with all the other things you want to put on a warrant article and so forth. Now this makes it consistent. That's what this bill does.
Would the member yield to a follow-up? The member does not yield. The question before the House is the motion to concur on House Bill 422. The chair recognizes the member from Londonderry, Representative Baldessaro, to speak in opposition to the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Fellow reps, I apologize because I think it's very important to know what you're voting on here. There was an issue in my town in SB2. I sent a letter to the Attorney General to get verification and interpretation of the Constitution and also on the law on having a quorum at a town or an SB2 meeting, which is part of the voting process. They said it wasn't proper. So we went back to my school board and talked to them about it before we took them to court. Because the Attorney General clarified the issue in my town not complying. We also went with the Secretary of State on the election issues here to clarify this. When the town felt, my school board felt it was not proper, myself, the town council, and another one took the school board to court because we felt that a quorum during the voting process to have 500 people or more is unconstitutional. Now, by taking the Secretary of State out of the picture, or the DRA, or the Attorney General, what you're going to do is have mass confusion in the state on the laws, because now you don't go to them to get interpretation of the law, whether it's constitutional or not. And this cost them the school board, because we gave them every opportunity to stop it. It cost them also in lawyer fees, because they had to pay lawyer fees just to make sure they were in compliance with the Constitution. Now, the Secretary of State and the Attorney General was a big part in interpreting the law and everything else on SB2 that could have saved my school board a lot of money if they complied with it. That's why it's important to understand what you're voting on, because you open it up a can of worms for one town that don't know what they're doing on SB2. Thank you.
Question before the House is the motion to concur on House Bill 422. The chair recognizes the final speaker, the member from Hillsborough, Representative Porter, to speak in support of the motion.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Phew, huh? Let me give you a little bit of history. Way back in 1995, when the SB2, or official ballot process, was set up in the state, the charter process was already, charter adoption process was also set up. It was the intent of the legislature at that time to give towns and cities the opportunity in several ways to change their form of government. As towns get bigger, town meeting doesn't always work as well. Unfortunately, the statutes surrounding the process of adopting and revising and amending a charter are difficult to understand and sort of unwieldy. So very few communities use them. Basically now, towns think they have the choice of traditional town meeting or SB2. I won't go into how much time our committee has spent on trying to fix issues around SB2. There's a lot of bills. The charter process gives them another opportunity, and the purpose of House Bill 422 was to simplify the process, make it more easily understandable, so that more towns would consider it when they are considering changing their form of government. The committee heard testimony on the bill. We put it into a subcommittee, which met many times. The original bill was amended. Our committee approved it unanimously. It went over to the Senate. In the Senate, the Secretary of State had expressed concerns about the workload if a whole bunch of new towns were starting a charter process. That is why the Senate amended the bill to take the Secretary of State out of the approval part of the bill. During the course of the floor debate in the Senate, some concerns were raised by the city of Manchester. So on the floor, they passed an amendment which assures that the substance of existing charters is not affected by this bill. And that makes sense, because it's a bill about process. It's not a bill about what's in the charter. That's up to the towns and cities to decide. This is about how you go about getting a petition on the warrant article, approving it, electing a charter commission, how the adoption process will work, how the revision process will work, how the amending process will work. It doesn't change existing charters, but Manchester at that time felt they needed assurance, and that's why the floor amendment was put in. That amendment also protects communities that are in the process now of adopting the charter or revising it or amending it. The bill says, until that process is finished, you're in the old rules. Anybody starting forward is under the new process that we're putting in this bill. It does not take away the people's rights. In fact, it makes the threshold a little higher if we're going to change the form of government. Instead of just 50% of the voters approving, it makes it be 60% of the voters approving a new charter that changes the form of government. I have personally spent a lot of time with different legal counsel on this bill. I have been assured by House counsel, Senate counsel. I have heard from the counsel for the city of Manchester. I've heard from the city clerk. I've heard from people from the Manchester Board of Aldermen. They have studied this bill as amended by the Senate and find no problems with it. The one issue that came up, and that can be a bookkeeping issue, is that the bill, the current statute says names placed on a ballot should be placed in alphabetical order. That is not allowed under the Constitution and will need to be changed. So I'm asking you to please concur with the House Municipal and County Government Committee who approved these changes, with the Senate Parallel Committee, and vote to concur on this bill. Thank you.
Well, we never yield to a question. We never yield to Representative Valencourt. You may inquire.
Well, I have never heard that particular argument, but you have just admitted that there is a constitutional problem with this bill and suggested that that could be fixed as a bookkeeping problem? You think the Constitution is so trivial as to be a bookkeeping matter?
Obviously, I don't, Representative Valencourt. My point was that to change that one provision is not a major issue in the bill. I'm not saying we're going to change the Constitution with a minor issue, but with the bill language itself.
The question before the House is the motion to concur on House Bill 422. Representative Baldassare requests a roll call. Is that sufficiently seconded? It is sufficiently seconded. This will be a roll call vote. Will members please take their seats?
Roll call. Take your seat, member.
Of course. Hey, Mary.
office is viewed by municipalities as providing a fair and unbiased advice to charter commissions. If I know that the Secretary of State is by statute responsible for overseeing charters in the state of New Hampshire, if I further know that this bill or this amendment would undo a lot of the work of the committee, because all municipalities have charters, so it essentially makes it apply to all of them. And if I further know that this bill takes the Secretary of State out of the review equation, would I not oppose this motion to non-concur so that these issues can be worked out in a committee of conference by pressing the red button? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is the motion to concur on House Bill 422. This is a roll call vote. If you're in favor, you'll press the green button. If you're opposed, you'll press the red button. Chair recognizes Representative Sherwood for a parliamentary inquiry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if I know this bill has been well vetted by both the House and the Senate. And Madam Speaker, if I know that this bill has the support of the local government center. And Madam Speaker, if I know that this bill simply clarifies the process to modify, adopt, or change a local charter, would I now press the green button and support concurrence? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is the motion to concur on House Bill 422. This is a roll call vote. If you're in favor, you'll press the green button. If you're opposed, you'll press the red button. Voting stations are open for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that we non-concur and set a committee of conference.
Representative Porter moves that the House non-concur and request a committee of conference on House Bill 422. The question before the House is the motion for a committee of conference on House Bill 422. Are you ready for the question? A division has been requested. This will be a division vote. Will members please take their seats? The question before the House is the motion to request a committee of conference on House Bill 422. This is a division vote. If you're in favor, you'll press the green button. If you're opposed, you'll press the red button. Voting stations are open for 30 seconds.
1196 relative to abatement of property taxes.
Representative Porter moves that the House concur with the Senate amendments on House Bill 1196 and is recognized to speak to her motion.
Thank you, and thank you, Madam Speaker. HB 1196 has passed by the House, cleared up some confusion resulting from a recent decision of the Board of Land and Tax Appeals, and allowed selectmen to continue to abate property taxes for good cause shown, as they had been doing for years. The Senate amended this bill by incorporating the substance of SB 286, which allows selectmen to also abate prior year's taxes on properties which it is not in the town's best interest to assume for taxes owed. For example, it would cost too much to clean up the area of the property. The Senate also added suggestions that were made by DRA and the Municipal Association for cross-referencing, renumbering, and other areas of affected statutes. The majority of the committee agrees with these changes and hopes that we'll vote to.
The question before the House is the motion to concur on House Bill 1196. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The House will attend to a further Senate action.
Madam Speaker, the Senate requests concurrence with its amendments to House Bill 1371 relative to grading and improving subdivision streets.
Representative Porter moves that the House now concur with the Senate amendment on House Bill 1371 and is recognized to speak to her motion.
Thank you again. This one gets a little technical. It's a long been practice in many towns for the selectmen to regulate the grading and improvement of streets within a subdivision after the planning board has approved the subdivision. Under current statute, however, only the planning board is mentioned as having this authority. This was brought to court and the selectmen lost. So HB 371 has passed by the House, codified the authority of the governing body, or the selectmen, to have the ability to make this approval, bringing the statutory language in line with long-standing practice. The Senate amended the bill by changing a phrase. The House bill states, the planning board's jurisdiction shall be exclusive, subject to the municipality's ability to transfer authority from the planning board to the governing body. The Senate changed this to, the planning board's jurisdiction shall be exclusive except to the extent that the municipality has transferred authority from the planning board to the governing body. The House version refers to a possible future action to the transfer of authority. The Senate amendment refers to a prior transfer of authority, basically saying whoever had the authority before will continue to have it unless they vote to change it. The committee agrees that this makes sense and hopes you will too.
The question before the House is the motion to concur on House Bill 1371. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The House will turn to a further Senate passage.
Madam Speaker, the Senate requests concurrence with its amendments to House Bill 1258 relative to fill and dredge permitting applications.
Representative Shanley moves that the House now concur with the Senate amendment on House Bill 1258 and is recognized to speak to her motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that we concur with the Senate amendments. It does two things. The first is more or less an oversight on our part because we said state and municipal workers could repair, modify culverts, and we are inserting the word qualified. We're inserting the word federal into that as well. The second part of the amendment provides that permit holders, this refers to mining and excavation projects, and it provides that permit holders may continue their permit without it expiring, provided they submit a report to DES every 5 years. I think that the Senate has done a good job with this amendment, and I ask that you support the concurrence. Thank you.
The question before the House is the motion to concur on House Bill 1258. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The House will attend to a further Senate message.
Madam Speaker, the Senate requests concurrence with its amendments to House Bill 650 relative to instituting a bus service between Claremont, New Hampshire and Lebanon, New Hampshire.
Representative Bouchard moves that the House now concur with the Senate amendment on House Bill 650 and is recognized to speak to her motion.
This bill, House Bill 650, dealt with bus service for the Claremont area. In the Finance Committee, it also was heard in the House Finance Committee. In the Senate, made changes to 2 sections, changing 1 word from shall to may, where the House version said that DOT shall seek funding. It changed it to may seek funding, and where the section of the bill said private entities shall seek funding from private sources, etc., it changed the word to may. So it changed the word from shall to may in 2 sections. And it's a good change, and I hope you support the motion.
The question before the House is the motion to concur on House Bill 650. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. No. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The House will attend to a further Senate message.
Madam Speaker, the Senate concurs with the House in the passage of the following entitled bill with amendments. In the passage of which amendments, the Senate asks the concurrence of the House. House Bill 1183, relative to display of antique motor vehicle plates.
Representative Bouchard moves that the House concur with the Senate amendment on House Bill 1183 and is recognized to speak to her motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate made 1 clarifying change to this bill, and the Senate amendment adds the phrase, so long as the number on the antique plate is not in use on another motor vehicle, motorcycle, or trailer. So it ensures that we don't have the same plate number on multiple vehicles. It's a good bill, and I hope you will support the motion to concur.
The question before the House is the motion to concur on House Bill 1183. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Shifting gears, we're now to non-concurs. The House will attend to a Senate message.
Madam Speaker, the Senate concurs with the House in the passage of the following entitled bill with amendments. In the passage of which amendments, the Senate asks the concurrence of the House. House Bill 255, establishing a commission to study medical costs and payments under workers' compensation law.
Representative White, Candy White, moves that the House non-concur with the Senate amendment on House Bill 255 and is recognized to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 255, when it left here, was a commission to study the workers' comp system. That committee was really charged with studying the medical costs and also the indemnity payments that we pay folks who are injured at work. The Senate changes to the bill are as follows. A change in the appointing authority of nearly every member of this commission. The Senate removed a second physician appointee, which is critical when we're talking about treatment of injured workers. We actually need doctors on this commission. And clearly one doctor's opinion, we all know, while it's valuable, sometimes those professionals disagree. But those are, in the big scheme of things, I guess fairly minor. But what they did do that was particularly egregious was turn upside down the charge of the commission. Now, this is a commission that passed this House unanimously on a voice vote. We would have studied all costs related to medical costs in the workers' comp system. The Senate changed that to cover only the investigation of fee schedules. Now, fee schedules are particularly controversial. They are one way of looking at costs, but the House position was really to cover all, take a look at all of the cost drivers, from utilization rates to specialties, those kinds of things. The Senate also eliminated the Commission's charge to study the rate of indemnity payments. That is what people get paid when they're out of work. House Bill 439 passed this body unanimously. That would have increased the indemnity payments to injured workers. So the House position is very clear that we wanted to take a look at, and it was important for the House to look at the rate that we pay injured workers. They also added a section in this committee's charge, or the Commission's charge, that would have required the Commission to look at opiate drug use in the context of workers' comp, completely different from the House position. I think if we had left it at look at medical costs, it probably would have been an issue we would have looked at. But that said, it changes dynamically the intent of the bill. And finally, the Senate added a provision to look at anything else. They added an anything else clause, and there's simply no time for a commission to do all of this work between now and the reporting deadline that we passed earlier today of November 1st. So the differences are very, very clear, and it looks that there's no particular area of compromise. We just ask you to support non-term. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Will the member yield to a question? The member yields to Representative Flanagan. You may inquire.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member from Lebanon for taking my question. With New Hampshire being the 7th highest workers' comp rate in the nation, and our own governor in the State of the State Union saying that one of her main concerns was the price of workers' comp and attracting business and keeping business in the state of New Hampshire, wouldn't it be worthwhile for us to have a committee of conference on this and try to work out the differences between the bodies?
Thank you for the question, Representative. I think that workers' comp, I don't believe we're the 7th, I think it's actually the 9th. Split hairs, I think. I think that workers' comp rates, specifically on the medical side, are ones that we need to continue to look at. My understanding is the governor's office is very interested in this and was looking at the outcome of this. My understanding was that the governor may appoint her own commission to investigate the costs related to workers' comp. And as far as going to committee of conference, I think at this point, with the differences being so significant, that a committee of conference would be highly unlikely to yield a result different than what I'm asking you to do today.
The question before the House is the motion to non-concur on House Bill 255. Are you ready for the question? Representative Baldessaro? Representative Baldessaro requests a roll call. Is that sufficiently seconded? It's not sufficiently seconded. This will be a division vote. Will members please take their seats?
It's a decision vote.
Remind everyone, in case you weren't here this morning when I made the announcement, we need to finish all of our bills today. We haven't gotten to the regular calendar yet. So it does appear likely that we will be returning tomorrow morning, so if you have to make plans, you have plenty of morning to do so. The question before the House is the motion to non-concur on House Bill 255. This is a division vote. If you're in favor, you'll press the green button. If you're opposed, you'll press the red button. Voting stations are open for 30 seconds. Have all members voted to review when the question was put? The House will be attentive to the state of the vote. 272 having voted in the affirmative, 49 in the negative, the motion is adopted. The House will attend to another Senate message.
Madam Speaker, the Senate requests the House concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1308, adding a member to the Advisory Council on Workers' Compensation.
Representative Andy White moves that the House non-concur with the Senate amendments on House Bill 1308 and is recognized to speak to this motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 1308, as it left the House, would have added one member to the Workers' Comp Advisory Council. That member from the New Hampshire Association of Justice. The Senate amendment removed that member from the New Hampshire Association of Justice and added an additional member, completely changing the sponsor and the committee and therefore the House's intent, and we would ask you to non-concur. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is the motion to non-concur on House Bill 1308. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The House will attend to a further Senate message.
Madam Speaker, the Senate concurs with the House in the passage of the following entitled bill with amendment. In the passage of which amendment the Senate asks the concurrence of the House. House Bill 1349, relative to the definition of employee for purposes of workers' compensation.
Representative Andy White moves that the House non-concur with the Senate amendment on House Bill 1349 and is recognized to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 1349, when it left the House, would have indemnified employers from paying late fees and interest if they relied on the definition of an employee as offered by the Department of Labor. So most employers deal with the Department of Labor and the Department of Employment Security. And the cross definition of employee by each department is somewhat different. This would have allowed employers to be immune not from misclassifying, but from the fees and penalties associated with it, which seemed to the House to be a pretty good idea. When it went to the Senate, they added to the House language a commission to study a common definition of employee. And while that seems like, at its face value, a good idea, we know that the new Commissioner of Labor has already formed his own group to look at this between the agencies, and we'll be making recommendations if they can find agreement on this definition. And the balance of the commission, as proposed in the Senate amendment, was such that the outcome would appear to be somewhat biased, and we would ask the House to non-concur. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is the motion to non-concur on House Bill 1349. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
No!
Ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Shifting gears again, the remainder of Senate messages are for requests for committees of conference. The House. That's right. And listen up, because I might be reading out your name. The chair of the House will attend to a further Senate message.
Madam Speaker, the Senate concurs with the House in the following bill with amendments and asks the concurrence of the House on House Bill 1128, establishing a committee to study issues related to students receiving special educational services while attending a charter public school.
Representative Guile moves that the House non-concur with the Senate amendments on House Bill 1128 and request a committee of conference. The question before the House is the motion to request a committee of conference on House Bill 1128. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The chair appoints Representatives Shaw, Myler, Frazier, and Brennan. The House will attend to a further Senate message.
Madam Speaker, the Senate requests House concurrence with its amendments to House Bill 1488, establishing the New Hampshire program on educational support for military children.
Representative Guile moves that the House not concur with the Senate amendment on House Bill 1488 and request a committee of conference. The question is on the motion to request a committee of conference on House Bill 1488. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The chair appoints Representatives Grassi, Schmidt, and Andrew Schmidt, Guile, and Bone. The House will attend to a further Senate message.
Madam Speaker, the Senate concurs with the House in the passage of House Bill 1534, establishing a commission to study fiscal disparities between public school districts, and asks for concurrence with the Senate amendments.
Representative Guile moves that the House not concur with the Senate amendments on House Bill 1534 and request a committee of conference. The question before the House is the motion to request a committee of conference on House Bill 1534. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The chair appoints Representatives Ladd, Gorman, Stang, and Burke. The House will attend to a further Senate message.
Madam Speaker, the Senate concurs with the House in the passage of the following bill and requests concurrence with amendments. House Bill 685 relative to state agency communications.
Representative Wall moves that the House now concur with the Senate amendment